Good afternoon, Harlem and Harlems of the world. This is Terri Wisdom, and I am your host for today. As many of you know, as we've been on this long journey that started at the onset of COVID, Harlem Network News is a new media platform, and we are here to assure that the Harlems and the Harlems of the world are informed. Knowledge is power, and just being on since the onset of COVID has really shown us how important our work is. And just the fact that a lot of the major media don't cover our stories, and also that it's very important that we tell our own stories. I have a very distinguished guest with me, an honorable, just living history, Dr. Maulana Karenga. And Dr. Karenga is going to speak with us on Kwanzaa 2020 and the theme for Kwanzaa 2020. But as we get started, I want to just give a very proper introduction to Dr. Karenga, because I think it's very important that we all be clear. And this is Dr. Karenga's biographical sketch. Dr. Maulana Karenga is professor and chair of the Department of Africana Studies at California State University, Long Beach. Dr. Karenga is the creator of the Pan-African cultural holiday, Kwanzaa, and the Nguzo Saba, the Seven Principles, and the author of the authoritative text titled Kwanzaa, a celebration of family, community, and culture. An activist, scholar, he is chair of the organization US and the National Association of Kawaida Organizations, an executive director of the African American Cultural Center and Kawaida Institute of Pan-African Studies, and also co-chair of Black Community, Clergy, and Labor Alliance, BCCLA. Dr. Karenga is also the author of numerous scholarly articles and books, including essays on struggle, position and analysis, Kawaida and questions of life and struggle, Mayat, the moral ideal in ancient Egypt, a study in classical African ethics, Introduction to Black Studies, 4th edition, Odu Ifa, the ethical teachings. He is currently writing a major work on the social and ethical philosophy of Malcolm X, titled The Liberation Ethics of Malcolm X, Critical Consciousness, Moral Grounding, and Transformative Struggle. Dr. Karenga is the recipient of numerous awards for scholarship, leadership, and service, including the Paul Robeson Zora Neale Hurston Award for scholarly work significantly contributive to the understanding, development, and appreciation of African world culture, and the CLR James Award for outstanding publication of scholarly works that advance the discipline of Africana and Black Studies, both from the National Council for Black Studies. He is also the subject of the book by Dr. Molefi Asante, titled Maulana Karenga, an Intellectual Portrait. And before I just let Dr. Maulana Karenga speak to us, I just want to give tribute, honor, and thanks to Sister Tiamoyo Karenga for coordinating and just making all these things happen. Sisters on the move, yes. So Dr. Karenga, without further ado, please share with the audience. We have some talking points, but I trust in your brilliance. So tell us first what you feel the audience needs to know. Thank you.
First of all, let's give thanks. I want to give thanks to the Harlem Network News for the invitation to share with all our audience today. Especially give thanks to Brother Bernardo Ruby and Sister Terri Wisdom here for always outreaching and for doing the good work you do for our people. It is so important to know. It's so important to be aware. As we always say in Kawida, there is no substitute for an aware, organized, and engaged people, constantly involved in a multiplicity of activities to define, defend, and advance their interests. And y'all contributed mightily to that. So thanks very much on behalf of all of us who benefit from the work you do, all our people. So thank you so much. So this is the season for Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa begins, as you know, December the 26th, goes to January 1st. But we always have pre-Kwanzaa conversation to get us ready for Kwanzaa. This year's theme is Kwanzaa and the well-being of the world, living and uplifting the 7 principles. Kwanzaa comes each year as a special season of celebration, remembrance, reflection, reaffirmation, and recommitment. It is a season which brings to mind and sets in motion the ancient and uplifting practice of our ancestors, gathering together in joyous and thankful harvest celebration of the good in the world, the good harvest of field and forest, the good of family, friends, and community, and the good of life and the living of it fully. And so we celebrate that. But at the same time, as you know, we also we come at a time this year in the midst of a devastating pandemic, in the midst of economic disruption and great suffering, and the need to keep our physical distance while making sure our relationship remain intact. And we're also affected by the ongoing pathology of oppression that does so much damage to our lives. But we are a resourceful and resilient people, and our poet laureate, Gwendolyn Brooks, tells us that we must conduct our blooming in the noise and whip of the whirlwind. And thus we must conceive new choreographies of closeness, reaffirm our meaning to each other in various other ways, and achieve what Howard Thurman, that great spiritual mind, what he calls being able to ride the storm and remain intact. And our Black people have ridden the storm and remained intact.
Yes.
So clearly during this special time of remembrance, of reflection, of reaffirmation and recommitment, let us pause to pay homage to those who have ridden the storm and those who are victimized by it. First, let us pause and pay homage to the victims of this deadly, disabling, and destructive virus, COVID-19, both the deceased and the living. We pay homage first to the many thousands dead. We mourn especially those who died unavoidable death, like others throughout our history, or casualties of a criminal system, a pathological, oppressive, racist system. Let us reaffirm the dignity and uniqueness of each of their lives. Let us say, may the joy they brought and the good they left last forever. Having risen in radiance in the heaven, may they be welcomed warmly in the sacred circle of the ancestors, among the doers of good, the righteous and the rightfully rewarded. Let us also pay homage to the survivors of this virus and the oppressive conditions, survivors of the oppressive conditions which made them and the deceased most vulnerable. We pay homage to for their strength, their resilience, their struggle to survive, to live, recover, and return to a healthy life. And let us also, in our grief and righteous anger, work together against oppression, work to heal the ill in ourselves, the wage the social struggle that is required to rid remedy and end the pathology of our oppression. And finally, let us pay homage and say a silent thanks very much to all the frontline workers who've done so much, given so much, included some of them their lives in order to serve and keep us safe, to heal us and to care for us in countless ways. And let us not forget those at home out of the sight of the media, but are still taking care of the ill and the aged and the disabled among us at home and other places, often without adequate help and with little or no recognition at all. But again, let us pay homage to them who keep the tradition alive and who say we do have the capacity to ride the storm and remain intact.
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Karenga, Dr. Maulana Karenga, put extremely eloquently, and I think you've just capsulized everything that we have been dealing with. 2020 has been an extraordinary year in many, many, many ways. And for those of you who are just tuning in, I'm Terri Wisdom, your host for today. This is Harlem Network News. You can reach out to us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, harlemnetworknews.com, Twitter, and join us. We are here to assure that Harlem and the Harlems of the world are informed. And we have today with us Dr. Maulana Karenga. And Dr. Karenga is the creator and founder of Kwanzaa, our Black, African, Pan-African holiday. And I just want to emphasize that because Dr. Karenga is living history, and we must celebrate our greatness while our greatness lives. So I'm just so honored that he's here, that we can speak with him, ask questions, he can inform us. He is also the head of the Africana Studies at California State at Long Beach and a professor there. So he is very ingrained, and with all the other organizations that we spoke about, us and so on and so forth, so much. So, I mean, we are in an age of information. You can Google Dr. Karenga. You can go to his website. Every Sunday, Dr. Karenga holds a forum. You can click on that. And it's very important that you support Dr. Karenga with your energy, with your donations, and the same for Harlem Network News, because this is us supporting us. This is what we must do. So yes, Dr. Karenga, on that note, if you would just also share with the community, because we want to be assured that we're educating. What is Kwanzaa? What are the 7 principles? How did you create it? And where are we right now going into this Kwanzaa and 2020 and your great theme for 2020? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Kwanzaa is a celebration of family, community, and culture. It's a worldwide African holiday based on the first fruit celebrations of Africa, the first harvest celebrations. And we get a lot of activities from that and a lot of orientation from that. We get values from that, views from that. We get the practices of ingathering from that, ingathering of the people to reaffirm the bonds between them. Second, a special reverence for creation and a commitment to protect and preserve the earth, which produced the abundance and which is our common heritage and our common good, and the basis for our very lives, right? And third, Kwanzaa is a time also for to raising up and honoring those of the past, the commemoration of the past, to raise and praise the name of the ancestors, to give credit to those who gave their lives so that we can live fully more meaningful one. The way openers, the bridges that carried us over, as Fannie Lou Hamer said. And she said, in teaching us the morality, remember that 2 things we all should care about. Never to forget where we came from. Always praise the bridges that carried us over. Kwanzaa is also a time for us to recommit to our high values, values that teach us to seek and speak truth, to do and demand justice, to honor our elders and our ancestors, to cherish and challenge our children, to care for the poor and the vulnerable and the ill among us, have a rightful relationship with the environment, to constantly struggle against evil, injustice, and oppression, always raise up praise and pursue the good. And of course, at the heart of this are the 7 principles in Nguzo Saba, which are umoja, unity, kujichagulia, self-determination, ujima, collective working responsibility, ujamaa, cooperative economic, nia, purpose, kuumba, creativity, and imani, faith. And also, Kwanzaa is finally a celebration of the good of life, as I said earlier, the good of family, community, and culture, the good of forest and field, of rock and river, of star and stone, of life and living it fully. That is what Kwanzaa is about. But it's especially uplifting and living in Nguzo Saba to practice umoja, unity, in the family, community, nation, and race, to strive for and maintain unity, the principle said, right? In the family, community, nation, and race, right? Kujichagulia, self-determination, to define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, and speak for ourselves. Ujima, collective working responsibility, to build and maintain our community together and make our brothers and sisters' problems our problems, and to solve them together. Ujamaa, cooperative economic, to build and maintain our own stores, shops, and other business, and to profit from them together, shared work and shared wealth, right? Nia, purpose, to make our collective vocation the building and development of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. But what is this greatness? It is greatness of service and doing good for the world. For our ancestors said in the sacred text of the Husia, ancient sacred text of Egypt, the wise are known by their wisdom, but the great are known by their good deeds. So we are great by the good deeds we do, and we must do good in the world, and in that we become great. And then, of course, Kuumba, creativity, to do always as much as we can, in the way we can, in order to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited. And therefore, we talk about the world here, and we talk about our relations, because when we talk about the world, we're talking about ourselves, and we have to understand that. And so we have this principle in Kuumba called Suruj's Ta, that is to raise up, to repair, renew, and remake the world, making it more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited. It's to raise up what is in ruins, to repair what is damaged, to rejoin what is divided, to replenish what is depleted, to strengthen what is weakened, to make straight what is, make straight what is wrong, and to make fluid that which is fragile and undeveloped. And then finally, of course, we talked about imani, to believe with all our hearts in our people, our parents, our teachers, our leaders, and the righteousness and victory of our struggle. And we didn't say believe first. We said, people might say, well, let's believe in our creator. Well, I think people believe in God. I mean, in African society, you know, not believing is not even a rejected possibility. So it's not a problem of believing in God. The question is, do we believe in our people? Do we believe in ourselves? Do we believe in the righteousness and victory of our struggle? Do we believe that our cause is right? That our cause of justice and freedom and equality and equity and shared good for everyone, do we believe this is right? That's the question. So let's believe. Mary McLeod Bethune said it, said, yes, great. It is great to have faith in God, but great too to have faith in yourself. After all,
absolutely.
God unto the image of God. Can you create too? That's the question she had. You must, in fact, emulate the Creator and be creative yourself. And African must mean excellence if it means anything. And Kwanzaa teaches us that. The values of Kwanzaa teaches us that. And it begins with umoja, because without unity, nothing is possible. You can't be a family, you can't be a friendship, you can't build a city, you can't build a house, you can't do an organization, you can't do anything without unity. But we need faith. And that's why faith is the foundation for that. Because without faith, we can't endure. We'll lose it because there's too much going on. And you know yourself, right? I mean, anybody has seen people make commitments and then break them. You've seen people get tired, right? They get weary. They get diverted by other things, right? But if you have faith, you can hold the line, right? And you can endure the storm. You can ride the storm and remain intact. And you can do what, that's Howard Thurman again. And you can do what Gwen Brooks said, and that is conduct your blooming in the noise and whip of the whirlwind. The whirlwind cannot defeat us. The hurricanes of history cannot destroy us. We can remain strong if we remain together, Umoja, and if we have faith. And if we do those things in between, Kuchaklia, self-determination, collective work and responsibility, cooperative economics, perfect Columbo creativity, right? So we need the 7 principles. They're at the heart and soul of what it means to practice Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa is just not a song and dance, even though that's central. It's not telling the narrative. It's not just making the commitment. It's practice. Because in the final analysis, practice proves and makes possible everything. How do we practice the principle, the sacred principle, the moral principle of unity, a oneness with and in the world, a sense of oneness with people rather than distance? Our oppressor is distant. He's distant not only from us, he's distant from himself. He's destroying the planet that he needs to live on. Imagine that. Right? He had no future. He had no sense of leaving a world for even his own children, let alone us. Excuse me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. You are right, Dr. Maulana Karenga, and we thank you for speaking that truth. And I also want to say good afternoon to the Honorable Keith Wright, who is our Democratic lead here in Harlem. Dr. Karenga, Honorable Keith Wright, and he is our Harlem Network News political analyst, you know, helping the community to understand what is going on. So it is indeed a great honor. You can just say hello to the people, and I'm going to just get back to Dr. Karenga, and then I'm going to come to you.
Good afternoon. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat listening to the wisdom of Dr. Karenga. Please continue.
Okay. Right.
Thank you. And, I'm just, I mean, the principles of Kwanzaa, the Nguzo Saba. I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News for those of you who are just tuning in. And we have the Honorable Dr. Maulana Karenga with us, the creator of Kwanzaa, as well as the Honorable Keith Wright, the Democratic lead, and, you know, been a public official for many years here in Harlem. But what you said, Dr. Karenga, is so profound, just in terms of incorporating the principles of Kwanzaa into our daily lives, yes, to work together. And we as a people need that doctrine. We need to make that a living doctrine in order to do what we have to do. And I want to just pay tribute to an organization here in Harlem, Blue Nile Rites of Passage. It stems from Abyssinia Baptist Church, but we did have an amazing, amazing Kwanzaa celebration yesterday for Blue Nile, virtually, including the elders and the young sisters and brothers and other members of the village. And it was just amazing. And the young people were amazing in terms of expressing the principles and their concept of the principles and how they plan to practice the principle they're connected to. And they had art and they showed films, and it was just a capsulized hour, but it was very inspirational because it's very important to pass on the tradition of Kwanzaa. So if you could speak a little bit on that, Dr. Karenga, and, you know, when it started and where we are now. Are people practicing it as much as they were initially? And what do we need to do in terms of to really continue our traditions? Because a lot has been lost from us in terms of our traditions being taken, and we must reclaim them and continue. And Kwanzaa is an excellent way for us to do that. So if you would share with us, please.
You know, you're so right, Sister Jeff. In fact, when you ask, why did I create Kwanzaa? What is the purpose of Kwanzaa? It answers what you just said about the need to reorient ourselves in our own culture. I left the university working on my doctorate to join the movement and to contribute to the advancement of freedom and liberation for our people. And I wanted to build an institution that would aid the struggle for liberation, right? And so I created Kwanzaa for three basic reasons. Number one, to reaffirm our rootedness in African culture. In fact, we taught along with Cabral that part of the struggle of liberation was a struggle to return to your own history and culture so you could speak your own special culture, make your own unique contribution to how the society is reconceived and reconstructed. We argued then and now that in order for us to free ourselves, we had to be ourselves. And we could not be ourselves if we're not rooted in our culture. We taught what we call revolutionary culture nationalism, which is based on three fundamental principles. One, that the defining feature of any people or nation is its culture. That for people, second, for people to be itself and free itself, it must be self-conscious, right? Self-determining and rooted in its own culture. And third, that the quality of life of a people and the success of its liberation struggle depends upon it waging cultural revolution within and political revolution without, resulting in the radical transformation of self, society, and ultimately the world. And when we talk about culture, we're not talking about song and dance. We're talking about a total value system, view and value system, and the practices that come from that, right? We define culture as a totality, I said the totality of thought and practice by which a people creates itself, celebrates, sustains, and develops itself, and introduces itself to history and humanity, right? And that occurs on at least 7 levels. In the area of spirituality and ethics or religion, in the area of history, social organization, economic organization, political organization, creative production, which is art and music, literature, dance, etc. And finally, the ethos, the collective psychology you achieve as a result of thought and practice in the other 6 areas. So we're talking about everything we do having a cultural basis to it, being informed and undergirded and impelled by certain views and values and the practices that rise out of those views and values. And I wanted us to get back to that. And Kwanzaa became the first and foremost reason that I created Kwanzaa. So the first, the rootedness in the African culture. Second, I wanted to create a time when we as African people all over the world could come together, reaffirm the bonds between us, and meditate on the awesome meaning of what it is to be an African in the world, right? And you know, more than any other time, all over the world, on every continent in the world, Black people stop, pause, meditate on the whole meaning of being African. They sing African songs, tell African narratives, discuss African views and values about the world, right? They do so many things that remind them of who they are. They structure their lives so that they can be themselves in order to free themselves. Millions and millions of people. There's no other Pan-African holiday like this that brings so many people together. It's a global practice. It's a global practice, Kwanzaa and the 7 principles. And that's the beauty of it, how it unites us, how it goes past all our differences and puts us on the common ground of African culture and the struggle to expand the realm of freedom and justice and good in the world. That's amazing if you look at it. And Black people have done this without asking the media. They didn't ask the city council or the state legislature or the federal government to authorize. We are self-authorizing. In fact, Kwanzaa is an act of freedom. It's an act of freedom in that it breaks from the catechism of impossibility and and degradation that the European society imposed on us, right? We broke from that. We defined our own reality, right? We define ourselves. We authorize ourselves. That's an act of freedom. It's also an instrument of freedom because it brings us together and it talks to us about our culture and about ourselves. It grounds us in the best of what it means to be African and human in the world and teaches us the fundamental mission and meaning of life is to constantly bring good into the world and not let any good be lost. And so it is not only an act of freedom, but an instrument of freedom. It joins the movement as an organizer, as a source of culture. And culture becomes the fundamental ground for liberation. In fact, as Touré and Cabral said, Cabral said, the liberation struggle is an act of culture itself. And then thirdly, I created Kwanzaa to introduce. So I created Kwanzaa to reaffirm our roots in African culture, to return us to our culture. Second, to give us a time when we, as African people, could come together, reaffirm the bond between us and meditate on the awesome meaning of being African in the world. And third, again, I created Kwanzaa in order to introduce and reaffirm communitarian values that stress and strengthen family, community, and culture. And of course, the hub and hinge on which the holiday term, or the Ingrupu Sovereignty, the 7 principles, which we said again, that is Umoja unity, Kujichagulia, self-determination, Ujima, collective working responsibility, Ujamaa, cooperative economic, Nia, purpose, human creativity, and humanity faith. So yes, Kwanzaa continues to spread around the world, right? There's not a continent it's not on. We get correspondence from all over the world on every continent. People are celebrating.
I thank you, Dr. Karenga, and I think it's very important as you're sharing that Kwanzaa is a worldwide and that this is a big world. In order for us as African people to succeed, we must all stay connected. And I look forward, Dr. Karenga, because I know that next week, Sunday, and I don't have the exact time in front of me, you will be with the International African, yes?
It will be 2 o'clock New York time.
2 o'clock New York time. And he will be with the International African Arts Festival, as he is every year for the second day of Kwanzaa. Correct? Yes, Kujichagulia. And Dr. Karenga will be speaking about 2020, the annual Kwanzaa theme, Kwanzaa and the well-being of the world, living and uplifting the 7 principles, and more. So, yes.
I really want to invite everybody out because this will be my annual Kwanzaa message. As Sister Terri said, it's about Kwanzaa and the well-being of the world, living and uplifting the 7 principles. And what I want to do is keep in mind that we are world-encompassing people, right? And that we are part of the world, not separated from it. And that the natural world is not only a shared heritage of ours, it's a shared responsibility of ours. And we must talk about climate change. We must talk about desertification in Africa. We must talk about the loss of farmland and the erosion of soil and the poisoning and polluting and plunder and depletion that goes on under corporate domination and under the domination of society that are more for greed than generosity, that believe in conquest rather than cooperation. And we must talk about how we resist this. Because if we don't, how do we have harvest celebration? What do we harvest except grief? We must struggle to make the world good. We say from Odu Ifa, the sacred text of the Yoruba ancient ancestors, they said, let's do things with joy, for surely humans are divinely chosen to bring good into the world. This is the fundamental mission and meaning of human life. And Sister Terri, you asked me, what is it the message for young people? It's that.
Thank you.
It is to remember, as Fanon said, Frantz Fanon, one of our great thinkers of the 20th century. He said, each generation must discover its mission, and having discovered its mission, either fulfill it or betray it. And your mission is the same as your ancestors, to bring good into the world and not let any good be lost. And you must decide the field in which you're going to do that. You can choose to be a judge or a journalist, a doctor or a lawyer, right? You can be a teacher. You can be what you want, or that you can be what you want, but you must remember, you must use your knowledge to serve the people. And Mary McLeod Bethune told us that service is an ethical imperative. We are morally compelled to serve others. She said, let us so live our lives that even when we lie down in death, we stand tall on the platform of service. What a beautiful concept. And so serve the people, young people, serve the people. Serve them from your own vantage point. We don't tell you not to do what you need to fully realize yourself.
All right.
Garvey said we all must, was coming to the fullness of ourselves. But he said, if you do things that are selfish, they last no longer than you do. But if you do things that are good for all in common, it would take you even to eternity. What a beautiful concept of our forefather Marcus Garvey, right? And Anna Julia Cooper told us, never confuse individual advancement with the collective welfare of the people. Do good for the whole people, and you are enlarged and exalted by it.
Thank you, Dr. Karenga. Very powerful, very inspiring, especially during this year of COVID, and we don't know where that is going. So it's very important, and this has shown our resilience. This has been another type of middle passage for our people, but we are indeed survivors. So we are very grateful for you coming on, for you sharing, for you inspiring us. And I just think it's extremely significant because you are the embodiment of living history. If people have questions, they can ask you. They can come on to your forum this evening in New York time, 6 o'clock. They can go to your website, www.maulanakarenga.org, and click on all the links and get information. I trust they can come to the university. Maybe there are seminars that you give, or there may be people that want to come and learn Africana studies from you. So you're here, and it's important that we take advantage of that knowledge and that power. And just to see that you are so well versed in dropping all kinds of knowledge and names that, are regular and that we all should know and we all must study, so that to me is very empowering. And what's even more empowering is that you are versed across the board. You're talking about farming and, saving the planet and politics and culture. So you are not a one-dimensional person. You're covering it all, and in the human spirit. So thank you so much. And I did read one of your quotes. It said, this is our duty to know our past and honor it, to engage our present and improve it, and to imagine a whole new future and forge it in the most effective and expansive ways. So if you would just close out on some of those thoughts. I know that you have to prep, and I appreciate you really taking this extra time with us, because
I want you also to thank you so much, Sister Karen. Thanks for the invitation. I'm always glad to come. And warm greetings to everyone, all your audience. And just want to urge them to support you, support Harlem Network News in any way that they can, and especially with donations and with audience. Always come and listen. Yes, I said this, that this is our duty, to know our past and honor it, to engage our present and improve it, and to imagine a whole new future and to forge it in the most ethical, effective, and expansive way. If we don't know our past, we can't honor it. We can't learn its lesson, We can't absorb its spirit. We can't extract and emulate its models of human excellence and achievement. And we cannot practice the morality of remembrance, giving homage to those who gave their lives so that we could live full and more meaningful lives. And we must always, engage our present and improve it, right? We are chosen to bring good into the world, and we must do that. Otherwise, we fail our mission in life. We show no agency, right? And we must imagine a whole new future, because the world we're in is not a good one, right? When I say the world is good, it's the structure, the social structures of oppression are not good. And we must struggle against it. In the context of oppression, there is no remedy except resistance. There's no reliable vaccine except victory over our oppressor and our oppression, right?
Thank you.
There's no way forward except across the battlefield for a better world, a good and just world, a sustainable world, right? Where rivers run clean again, right? Where the air breathes fresh again, where the trees are not chopped down mercilessly and soil erosion overwhelms all of us. And we find ourselves on an almost barren planet looking for salvation among the stars. But as Garvey said, the Honorable Marcus Garvey said about going to Africa, if you didn't do well here, what would you do in Africa? So you got to prepare yourself to go there. You got to prepare yourself to go to another world. And I'd just like to close, as I always close, by saying, continue to struggle. Oh, and by the way, go to the Kwanzaa website too, officialkwanzaawebsite.org, officialkwanzaawebsite.org, and mine, maulanaKarenga.org, because a lot of this stuff out there is not real. But those two.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So this I want to close. Continue the struggle. Keep the faith. Hold the line. Love and respect our people and each other. Seek and speak truth. Do and demand justice. Be constantly concerned with the well-being of the world and all in it. And dare help rebuild the overarching movement that prefigures and makes possible the good world we all want and deserve to live in and leave as a legacy worthy of the name and history Africa. Oh, Jeff, I say it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dr. Karenga, Dr. Maulana Karenga. We appreciate you. And you are the embodiment of all of the principles of Kwanzaa in your greatness, humble to come to Harlem Network News and share with the community. And next week, you'll be with the International African Arts Festival. Once again, sharing with the community. They can go to that website and get more information. And we definitely will be posting all on Harlem Network News. So we appreciate you. We appreciate Sister Tia Moyo Karenga for her diligence and just constantly staying on top of things. We appreciate Dr. Segun at the International African Arts Festival for helping us all stay connected. And we appreciate Brother Bernardo Ruby for helping us all stay connected as well. So, and thank you. Okay, blessings. Thank you so much. Okay, so Harlem Network News, Terri Wisdom coming to you live. And for those of you who are just joining, we were just graced and blessed with the founder and creator of Kwanzaa, Dr. Maulana Karenga. And we are now here with our Honorable Keith Wright, Democratic lead for New York City. And he is going to give us some political analysis in terms of what's happening in Washington, what's happening in New York City, what's happening with COVID, the vaccine, you know, to really interpret, because we're watching all of the major networks and we really need it to be broken down and interpreted so that we're informed and we can make the best decisions for ourselves. And later on this evening at 7:30, Harlem Network News has a special on COVID and the vaccine and how it's impacted our community with two of our renowned Harlem doctors, Dr. Arthur Lewis, and eye surgeon and Dr. Michelle Alexander, former director of medicine for Con Edison and the Transit Authority. So they're going to break it down for us this evening at 7:30 special. But without further ado, Honorable Keith Wright, thank you so much for your patience and your time and just the space. So.
No, my pleasure. It's an honor to be with you and listening to not only the wisdom of Dr. Karenga, but the wisdom of Terri Wisdom. It's always good, and I could listen to Dr. Karenga all day. As a matter of fact, he's just so passionate and charismatic and intelligent. I mean, it's just great just to sit at his feet and listen to what he has to say. So, but as far as the political landscape right now, and I'm sorry, I have another call that I have to take at 4:00.
Yes.
And no, that's not my pleasure. No, it's my pleasure. Wish I could stay on. I'll join you anytime you wish me to join you if I'm able to do so. But I mean, I see that the Vice President of the United States has taken a vaccine shot, and it's just very ironic and very duplicitous, I think, on his part to do so. This guy's along with Ronald Reagan that was telling everybody to drink bleach and Clorox in order to get rid of the COVID disease. But he took his shot, and more or less, I don't know, I guess he may have come to an awakening. Because certainly the policies that they've been putting forward have not been in line with trying to find a cure for this dreaded disease. I mean, they were out there promoting no masks, congregate, business as usual, when in fact we are in a absolute pandemic. People are dying left and right throughout this country. What did I read? Over 300,000 folks have died since the onset of this disease in this past March. March is when, let's face facts, we've been locked down and locked up since basically of March of this year. And I know all of the people that are listening to you and listening to me can't wait to get out of 2020. But when we get out of 2020, it doesn't necessarily mean that we'll be finished with the disease. So now Congress has decided that they are going to become the poster children for getting the vaccine. And quite frankly, I don't know why Congress or elected officials are becoming the poster children for taking the vaccine when they have inhibited the vaccine. I mean, people, the communities of color should actually be the first ones to get this vaccine since they've been so impacted by the lack of vaccine and impacted by this disease. I could care less if Mike Pence gets a vaccine. Matter of fact, I would hope that he wouldn't, to be honest with you, because they've been part of the problem, large part of the problem. So, I mean, I think it's the folks that in these communities, especially Black and brown communities, that should be getting this vaccine. Now, here's the question. Will our people take the vaccine? I would hope that the answer would be yes. Listen, I'm a guy that gets his flu shot regularly each and every year. So if there's a vaccine to ward off this disease, I'm going to take it.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. And as I said, at 7:30 this evening, we're going to have some of our doctors on.
Well, Dr. Michelle Alexander, I'm a big fan of hers.
Okay, yes.
I'm a big fan of her. Please tell her that I'm hanging on every word that she has to say.
Yes, we all are. And I mean, Dr. Michelle Alexander, and what I love is that she is a medical doctor, but she's also cultural, political.
No question.
All of those things. And she is a great resource of knowledge.
No question.
And that's what we must look at in terms of our scholars. Like, they're not one-dimensional. Dr. Karenga is a scholar. He can drop those names. You can tell he's well-read, well-versed. That's Dr.
No
Michelle.
question.
That is Dr. Lewis that's coming on. And that's what's required. And, in terms of making decisions to take the vaccine, people must be informed. It's very important that they have the information and understand what it means for them to take it. And then they can make that educated decision. They're not
No question.
what somebody told them that happened to this and that. You know, knowledge is power. Now, what's happening quickly, because I know you have to go, in terms of Congress and the Senate and, you know, passing the bills and all of what is happening, where are we with that?
Well, you know, the country so needs a what they call a stimulus bill. Businesses need to be helped. Education, the distribution of the vaccine and such. We are really going through so much so of a depression. I mean, people are really struggling, and you can really see it, Terry. And you and I have talked about this before.
Yes, absolutely.
People are struggling like they've never struggled before. When we look outside of our doors and we see folks lined up around the block for food, I mean, just to eat the basic necessities, we are really going through an absolute struggle. So Congress has got to get up off their behinds and make sure that they infuse some capital into our communities. Now, you know, we live in a capitalistic society. Capitalism can only function. Well, it can only function for two ways. Now, one way is that you have a pool of free or very, very cheap labor. But the other way is so that money has to be circulated in communities. If people don't have money, they cannot circulate. They cannot circulate any dollars. You know, you have millions and millions of people that that have been out of work and that they've been receiving unemployment checks. Well, you know what? Those unemployment checks from the last stimulus package have now run out. So people are in need of money. We are now in the holiday season, and money needs to be circulated. Otherwise, quite frankly, our economy is in for a big, even more so big downfall than it is now. Money has to be circulated. And what happens when people get money? They spend it. Certainly the money that I spend is able to help out my landlord, let's say, who will in turn cut the grass and keep the place clean. Money has to be circulated in this economy that we live in. So Congress, I'm told, is very, very close to a stimulus package. They're very, very close. And but what's looms even harder is that the government is going to shut down. The federal government is going to shut down unless they come up with a budget bill.
Okay.
Well, you know, listen, unless you have the money, unless Congress authorizes the budgets for the federal government. And when I'm talking federal government, I'm talking about our federal agencies, whether it's HUD, our hospitals, veterans hospitals and such. Unless they authorize a budget, they won't have any money to exist. So they have to authorize a budget. And while they're doing that, they have to pass a stimulus package, which means that not only the Congress, but the Senate has to come with a resolution.
That was the next question. Once the Congress, because you said Congress is close to...
yeah, Congress is close, but the Senate has actually been the sticking point. And you know, the Senate does not they're a little slower than Congress, and so they are at the moment, I guess, they don't want to spend as much money. And quite frankly, we have to get a stimulus package done now because we don't know what's going to happen in Georgia. When they have I know.
I had actually recorded it, but I did see Reverend Raphael Warnock on The View, and he was stellar, and he had time to break it down. But would you let us know what's going on in Georgia? Because
and you know, it's funny. I mean, Reverend Warnock, we in this community a lot of us are very familiar with him because he was an associate pastor at Abyssinia Baptist Church.
Absolutely.
And as a matter of fact, you know, there are all sorts of calling into Georgia parties that people have. Various political clubs will be calling in, making phone calls into Georgia for Reverend Warnock and for this guy, John Ossoff. So, you know, the Georgia race has massive, massive implications upon the whole United States of America and Harlem as well.
Okay, thank you. And I know you've got to run. Quick question. What is going on with Trump and martial law and trying to turn the election around based on that? What is martial law and what is it that he's trying to do or can potentially do?
Well, martial law basically is taking over states and localities. Trump, you know, I guess is grasping at straws. When you have an extreme amount of unrest in communities, presidents have been known to establish something called martial law. Well, if Trump wants to do that, he'll have to do that in every state of the union, which he cannot do. So he's delusional, as we all know. Just a few more days, help is on the way. Let's get this dude out of there.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Honorable Keith Wright, for just, giving us that political analysis. Very important because we want to assure that Harlem and the Harlems of the world are informed. And any final notes on what's happening locally here in the community and what things we should be alerted?
All I can say is stay tuned, listen out, because as I've said before, I'll say it again, what's happening on the local level is actually more impactful than what happens on the federal level. You know, we all tune into MSNBC and to CBS and NBC and ABC and CNN. But what happens on the local level actually has more of an impact on all of our lives in those national elections. So just stay tuned, be informed, and be aware, and chip in when you can.
Okay. Well, thank you, Honorable Keith Wright. And
thank you.
This is Terri Wisdom, Harlem Network News. And we were in for a special hour. But if you missed Dr. Maulana Karenga, or if you missed Honorable Keith Wright, everything will be up on our Facebook. And then after that, it will be on YouTube, so you can check it out. So thank you so very much. And we ask in this season of Kwanzaa and Christmas and New Year and the holiday coming up, that you do circulate your dollars. Our Honorable Keith Wright spoke about the economy, and you know, the economy is based on the circulation of dollars. So we ask that you circulate your dollars within the community, within your community. Other communities circulate dollars within their communities, and that's how they're able to succeed, be it the Chinese community, the Indian community, the Jewish community. All of the communities do that best practice. So, you know, we as Black and Brown people must do that. And that brings me to our wonderful sponsor, and that is New Harlem Coffee. You can find them on our website. You can find them on our Instagram and our Facebook. And every beautifully packaged bag of Harlem, New Harlem Coffee that you purchase, a part of that purchase goes to help keep Harlem Network News going. And that is how we, of course, are practicing actively the principles of Kwanzaa. That is what Harlem Network News is based on. So thank you very much for joining us today. There are several things that are coming up this evening and this afternoon. We have Dr. Maulana Karenga, and you can go to his official sites and tune in. He gives a forum and a lecture every Sunday, 3 o'clock LA time, 6 o'clock New York time. So tune in. Harlem Network News has a special show this evening, where we will have our renowned Harlem doctors, Dr. Michelle Alexander, formerly Director of Medicine for Con Edison, as well as Dr. Arthur Lewis, renowned eye surgeon. Both are medical doctors, but also, you know, cultural, political nationalists that are very in tune and very well read. And they're going to talk to us about COVID, where we stand, as well as about the vaccine, so that people can be informed and make educated decisions. So we're looking forward to that. And I also know that Athena Moore, chief of the office, Northern Manhattan office for the borough president, has a session this evening, Civically Yours. I believe that's at about 7 o'clock. So there's a lot going on, but we're all virtual, so we can connect. And I want to once again thank Blue Nile Rites of Passage yesterday for an amazing, amazing Kwanzaa celebration for youth and elders in the village. And Blue Nile is a rites of passage for young people that comes out of the Abyssinian Baptist Church. So stay Black, stay brown, stay vigilant, move forward. Terri Wisdom, Harlem Network News. And you can once again find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And please donate. Also, we are working and helping to sponsor Reverend Akanke Rhonda McLean Newer's holiday extravaganza that she does every year, servicing children and families living in temporary housing. And the past 24 years, she has serviced and done a holiday extravaganza for 200 families a year. This year is the first year that the event is going to be virtual, and she will be giving out $100 gift cards to 50 families in shelters, a few shelters in the Bronx and here in Harlem. There will also be a show for the children and the families, family-friendly show. And part of it will be live with Reverend Rhonda and friends. And the back end of the show will be the Christmas Carol in Harlem, or Black Christmas Carol, which is sponsored by the Classical Theater of Harlem and Ty Jones, who we had on a few weeks ago. So once again, support your community. Unity in the community. Practice the circulation of dollars. You can start by making a donation to Harlem Network News, to Reverend Rhonda with the extravaganza, to purchasing New Harlem Coffee, to making a donation to Dr. Maulana Karenga and his organizations, and the International African Arts Organization. We must keep our dollars circulating in our community. So thank you very much. And we look forward. And we also, as you know, have a midday show. And this week it will be Wednesday, not Thursday. And we will have the phenomenal Abdel Salam of Forces of Nature, as well as his partner and wife, Diane Salam, as they are coming upon Kwanzaa at the Apollo Theater and Regeneration Night next Sunday, which will be virtual. So blessings, blessings, blessings to all. We thank you, we love you, and this is an incredible, incredible time of the holidays. With all going on, we are blessed that we are here. We are stronger than ever, and we are practicing all of the principles of Kwanzaa. Terri Wisdom, thank you. And we'll see you later. We'll see you at 7:30. Blessings.